Gender identity. A person's biological sex refers to their status as female, male, or intersex depending on their chromosomes, reproductive organs, and other characteristics, and it is a medical assignment given at birth. Gender identity is how a person feels and who they know themselves to be when it comes to their gender, and it can correlate with a person's assigned sex or can differ from it.
It makes it seem as if gender is an imaginary concept that can be changed on a whim.
Transgender. Transgender is an umbrella term for persons whose gender identity, gender expression, or behavior does not conform to that typically associated with the sex to which they were assigned at birth. Transgender is divided into two categories, binary and non-binary. These people identify their gender as exclusively male or female, so they may be transgender men or transgender women. These gender identities align with the traditional binary conception of gender, which recognizes only two categories, male and female. Non-binary transgender. These people may identify as a combination of male and female, neither male nor female, or they may have a gender identity completely different from male or female. The concept of non-binary gender challenges the traditional binary conception of gender and recognizes that there are many variations and nuances in how people identify with gender. Often, transgender people alter or wish to alter their bodies through hormones, surgery, and other means to make their bodies as congruent as possible with their gender identities. This process of transition through medical intervention is often referred to as sex or gender reassignment, but more recently is also referred to as gender affirmation. Some individuals who transition from one gender to another prefer to be referred to as a man or a woman, rather than as transgender. Intersex. People who are intersex have genitals, chromosomes, or reproductive organs that don't fit into a male-female sex binary. Their genitals might not match their reproductive organs, or they may have traits of both. Man.
Well, what's a man to you? You define a man for me.
You have chromosomes that are X and Y. That's what a man is.
A man, an adult male human, possesses XY chromosomes, indicating male sex and reproductive organs. Prior to reaching adulthood, he is commonly referred to as a boy or male child. Cisgender. A cisgender is someone whose gender identity aligns with the sex assigned at birth. However, many people prefer to be simply identified as women or men without the additional qualifier of cisgender. The web is full of clips discussing this term, as in the case of Kristen Marie, who made a TikTok in which she talked about the fact that she had had a pleasant conversation with a trans until the moment in which she expressed her desire to be defined as a woman instead of cisgender, and the other person defined her.
You're transphobic. You're a bigot. It doesn't work like that. If you're going to demand respect, you should also give it.
That's why Disney removed gendered language from Disney parks in 2021, immediately avoiding problems with activists of various gender identities. Additionally, British Airways has stopped using ladies and gentlemen in announcements, opting for gender-neutral terms. Moreover, an analysis conducted by Bloomberg found that 123 companies in the S&P 500 had adjusted the term chairman since 2020, using chair or chairperson. So, be cautious when addressing someone, as in some countries there are significant fines or even jail time for using inappropriate language.
What the fuck? It took me 3 years to learn I am, you are, he. Change your gender, but don't change your grammar, please.
Two-spirit. Two-spirit is an umbrella term that encompasses different sexualities and genders in Indigenous Native American communities. There are many different definitions of two-spirit, and Indigenous Native American people may or may not use this term to describe their experiences and feelings of masculinity and femininity. This is a cultural term that is reserved for those who identify as an Indigenous Native American, and apparently Piers Morgan also feels part of this category.
I am entitled to identify as a two-spirit penguin. In other words, there are no limits, and what's interesting is
cross-dress. People who cross-dress wear clothing that is traditionally or stereotypically worn by another gender in their culture. They vary in how completely they cross-dress, from one article of clothing to fully cross-dressing. Those who cross-dress are usually comfortable with their assigned sex and do not wish to change it. Cross-dressing is a form of gender expression and is not indicative of sexual orientation. The degree of societal acceptance for cross-dressing varies for males and females. In some cultures, one gender may be given more latitude than another for wearing clothing associated with a different gender. Genderfluid. Someone who is genderfluid is a person whose gender identity is not fixed. This means that it can change over time or from day to day. Fluid is a form of gender identity or gender expression, rather than a sexual orientation. Genderqueer. Genderqueer is a term that some people use who identify their gender as falling outside the binary constructs of male and female. They may define their gender as falling somewhere on a continuum between male and female, or they may define it as entirely different from these terms. They may also request that pronouns be used to refer to them that are neither masculine nor feminine, such as Z instead of he or she, or higher instead of him or her.
The other day I invited a friend to have dinner at my house, and he was like, oh, I'm bringing a friend. And I said, bring him. And he was like, no, bring them. So I bought a lot of food.
Other categories of transgender people include androgynous, multigender, gender nonconforming, third gender, and two-spirit people. Exact definitions of these terms vary from person to person and may change over time, but often include a sense of blending or alternating genders. Some people who use these terms to describe themselves see traditional binary concepts of gender as restrictive.
Sam Smith, he, they, them, she, whatever he currently calls himself, she does, they.
Yeah.
In recent years, there has been considerable debate surrounding the challenges associated with the inclusion of transgender women in women's sports competitions, leading to divergent viewpoints. One such instance is exemplified by Leah Thomas, an American swimmer, who won at the NCAA championships as the first transgender swimmer.
That is obscene.
Would you be happy if Usain Bolt identified as a woman and began winning the races against women by 2 seconds?
You're making an extreme argument out of what are people's lives.
It's happening with Leah Thomas.
Or more like the transgender man who was incarcerated in an all-women's prison after he was arrested and convicted of raping 2 women. This fact has led to numerous protests, which have led to Scottish amending its laws regarding transsexuals in prisons a few months ago. Not to mention the numerous protests that have been raised against the British Centre aiding teenagers in transitioning at an early age, only to find themselves regretting their decisions upon reaching adulthood. Worse still, some adolescent patients later discovered to have autism or other mental disorders were subjected to treatment. Agender. It means to have a non-binary gender identity, or to have no gender identity, or to have a neutral gender identity. Agender individuals reject the societal gender binary and do not align themselves with either gender. Bigender. Being bigender means identifying with 2 or possibly more genders, and it is considered a non-binary gender identity. A bigender person might always express one of their genders physically, at different times or at once. Woman.
What is a woman?
Yeah, of course I know what a woman is. An adult human female.
A woman, who's an adult female human, possesses XX chromosomes, indicating female sex and reproductive organs. Prior to reaching adulthood, she is commonly referred to as a girl or female child. Drag queen.
A drag queen? A drag queen? I am the queen of drag.
A person of any gender identity can be a drag performer. Drag is known for being an art form that comments on gender norms in imaginative ways. The term drag queens generally refers to men who dress as women for the purpose of entertaining others at bars, clubs, or other events. The term drag kings refers to women who dress as men for the same purpose. Other gender terms were too absurd. I wasn't able to summarize them for you. My fault. If you like this format, check out this video. YouTube thinks that you'll like it.
Join the Discord server in description to discuss this video.